Hello, welcome back to Cracking a Cryptic, and it's going to be a slightly longer intro than usual today because the rules of this puzzle have made me want to talk to you about a couple of things, and I'm going to. I mean, you're a captive audience. All you can do is skip ahead, and the chapter headings will reveal where the puzzle solve begins. But I will get to that in a moment. Don't forget that our new puzzle hunt is out on Patreon. It is The Yin Yang Journey by Itch.io, and it's fabulous, really popular. Connections also features various crossword videos. My very hard crossword for the month went up last week, and connections videos. I'll be coming back to them in a moment. We've also, of course, got all of our apps, and they now include the marvellous worms of Marty Sears and James Sinclair, with others to come. So do check those out on the links under the video, and all of our other apps, the previous one of which was Fog of War Sudoku, all available there, along with our merch and SVEN'S SUDOKU PAD in the links under the grid. Now, the rules to this puzzle mention Hershey's Kisses, Reese's Pieces, and Milk Duds. And to about half the people watching, those will be very familiar names. To the other half, they may be names that they have heard of, but they're quite likely names of candies that they have not heard of. And I'm dying to do the rules, but I'm just going to tell you this story first. So on a recent connections video, I completely struggled with I can't remember if I succeeded or failed. If you're a Patreon, you can check my recent connections videos to see. But on this particular one, I think I did fail in question. One of the categories involved the words goldfish, ruffle, combo, and tacky, T-A-K-I. And I'm afraid I could not make a connection between those. I pondered briefly goldfish crackers at some point, but didn't think much of it. And I was very amused by one of the comments on the video, which was, somebody needs to send Mark some American snacks. To be quite honest, it's hard to imagine the snack aisle without goldfish crackers, ruffles, chips, tackies, or combos. Does the UK really have none of those, or does Mark just never go in the snack aisle? Well, apart from the compliment to suggest that I don't go in the snack aisle at the supermarket, and you can be assured from my girth that I certainly do. I'm afraid it is true. We do not have those particular snacks. And so I took this around my family, and my son rather brilliantly and unintentionally irritated me by going, oh yeah, tackies are awful, by the way. And I was like, when did you eat those? He goes, I don't know, I've seen them somewhere. And 2 weeks later, I was passing a kind of speciality food shop, and there they were in the window mocking me, a big packet of tackies. So they have made it to Britain, but they're really only in speciality shops. Most people won't have heard of them. You have to believe me. If I tell you that these things are not on sale in Britain, please believe me, I'm telling you the truth. And that would apply to Hershey's Kisses, Reese's Pieces, and Milk Duds that are mentioned in this rule set. And I've got something else to say, I think, when we get to the end of the rule set. So I will do the rule set now, which is that the grid consists of 9 3x3 regions whose placements are to be determined by the solver. So this this isn't chaos construction. I've forgotten the name of this sort of puzzle again, but it does have deconstruction puzzle. That's it. It's a deconstruction puzzle. So we have to find the 9 3x3 regions. In each region, we have to place the digits 1 to 9. We have to make sure that in the whole 11x11 grid, that there is no repeated digit in any row or column, or obviously region. Now, here come those extra rules. Digits separated by Hershey's Kisses sum to 7. Digits separated by Reese's Pieces sum to 5. Digits separated by Milk Duds are from the same parity, even or odd. And the explanation for those rules comes in the next sentence, because you're looking at this grid going, I can't even see them. Like, they haven't come out on the grid. And the next line is, all possible candies above are given, and that's clearly no candies. So what the rules are telling us is that no digits No 2 digits next to each other sum to 7. No 2 digits next to each other sum to 5. No 2 digits next to each other have the same parity. There is a final rule that digits in empty candy wrappers, which are cages, sum to the total in their top left corner and sum to a maximum of 10. Well, the total in the top left corner of both of these cages is X. So I'm interpreting that rule to mean that each cage sums to the same total, which is not more than 10. I've also, by the way, interpreted the word and read it out, the word polarity earlier in the rules as parity. Now, we use polarity to mean opposite in terms of height, high or low. In these rules, it got defined as even or odd, which I would normally call parity. And my other point that I was going to talk about is sometimes in the puzzles we do, interpreting the rules is part of the puzzle. And this happened in a puzzle by Joe Darwo the other day, and some of the commenters got really angry that they couldn't quite understand what he meant by the last rule. And I'm just going to say, sometimes you have to figure it out yourself. If you're going to click on the puzzle and just try it on your own and not watch me explain what I think about it, then you're going to have to do the same figuring out I'm going to have to do. And that is sometimes involved in solving the puzzle. So what I will do in this puzzle is, assuming that I solve it and I had the right interpretation, I will correct the description field to say correct it. To say parity instead of polarity, clarify it maybe. To say parity instead of polarity. To say that these two cages sum to the same total, which is to be discovered and is not more than 10. And I doubt that I will correct the link that you can click on, because you can figure that out for yourself. You're smart enough. If I am, you are. Now, that's all my ranting, or whatever it was, over with. What I will say is, what an amazing grid, by the way. What an amazing empty grid. With that rule set, this is not the grid you would expect. This really isn't. It is almost totally empty, apart from 2 candy wrappers discarded on the floor. And I love the title, Someone Ate All My Candy with a Sad Emoji. This is by Pikel. It was recommended by Julius. I don't know how it's going to play, but I'm going to have a go now. Let's get cracking. Long old introduction. Right. Okay, one thing I know about deconstruction puzzles is that we can center, well, not center, but we can find 11 different places where there are cages. And they are these cells, these individual cells. And the reason that I know that these cells sit in the 9 different cages, that's a bad color, I'm trying to use my color scheme in front of me, is that you cannot make up a grid of 3x3 cages without the sort of box 9 area involving this cage. The furthest right southeast it could go is there. If you went any higher than that row, you'd be pushing orange and green into too few rows. If you went any further left than this row, this column rather, you would be pushing yellow and red too far off to the side. And therefore that is the most northwest point that blue can take. And you can work that out for all of these cells. These 9 cells must be in 9 different cages. And that is a good start to this kind of puzzle. I remember the first one of these we ever did. Actually, Simon did it, but I tried it myself. And I did figure that out quite quickly, but it took a bit of thinking and kind of pushing pieces around mentally. So I don't think that's a huge step to know this. Now, the other thing I was going to say, no, I've got 2 things to say. One is that we are harking back to yesterday's puzzle. Yesterday's puzzle that I did was called quincunx, and I think I called the video The Joy of Quincunxes, which is a great word, but it's also a great shape. So I'm going to ask you to picture a 3x3 box. Let's get the letter tool, the pen tool on, and let's picture a box up here. Now, one of these rules was that digits separated by milk duds are from the same parity, and all possible candies are given. And there are obviously no milk duds. I'm asking you to imagine that this is one of the 3x3 boxes in the final puzzle. Now, no domino within that box has the same parity. So we must be going even or odd, the other, the first, the other, the first, the other, the first, the other, the first. What we're going to end up with is a quincunx pattern. Those are all going to be odd. These are all going to be even. And that's the only way you can put together a single cage with this rule. So that is going to happen in this puzzle. We're going to get 9 quincunx boxes to hold the digits, and it's always going to be odds on the quincunx and evens on the diamond. And that's got to be a helpful deduction. Now, the other thing I was going to talk about is these bloomin' X's. Again, X sometimes represents 10 when it sits between two cells in our puzzles. It doesn't here, because if that was a 10 cage, these two digits would have the same parity, and the same applies to X equals any even number. So we now know that X equals 9, 7, 5, or 3. Because it contains even and, well, hang on. No, I've got to be a little bit more careful and specific, because these X's don't have to contain a number. Well, okay, I'm a bit nervous. I'm a bit nervous now because I don't know if X could be 0. If there could be no digits in these cages and therefore they both add up to 0, and that is the same total and has a maximum of 0, it obviously doesn't challenge a maximum of 10. It's not impossible that they have no digits in. However, it's much more likely that they sum to 3, 5, 7, or 9. Well, no. Well, the point I was going to make, and I haven't considered this properly, is that one of these cages at least might have only one digit in, and therefore the other would be blank. So that was what led me in my brain to think about what if both digits were blank. Now, how could one of them have one digit blank? By this being the blue area, for instance, and this being the yellow area. Then yellow would have 2 cells in X, blue would have 1 cell in its X, and that digit would have to equal the sum of those two. That's highly possible. I think it's probably harder. No, it's no harder at all for yellow to have 1 digit in and blue to have 2. I don't think it's possible for them both to have 1 in, because obviously it couldn't be the lower one. And if instead of the version I was mentioning, we had yellow here and blue here, or indeed forget all about yellow and let's make that blue and that not blue. You could have a cage here, but this won't work because those two digits would have to be the same. They would be the total of X. So I'm not quite sure what I've learnt there. X could be 0, but otherwise it's one of these cages has 2 digits in. It can't be just 1 each. And that digit or that sum is an odd number. X itself is an odd number. How on earth can we ever complete this puzzle? Right. I'm going back to my first cage thoughts. So this is a random cage that but it's what we're going to have to populate the grid with. We've got this quincunx of odd digits and this diamond of evens. But we're not allowed to have a domino that sums to 7 or one that sums to 5. Now, what digit can you put in the middle? You can't put 1, 3 or 5 as the odd digit in the middle, because it would be touching a 4 in one of those cells, and there'd be a thing summing to 5, or if it was a 5, it would be touching a 2 in one of the cells, and 5 doesn't work as well. So that central digit will always have to be 7 or 9. And we're also going to have to avoid within the perimeter of this box, and this is every box, we're going to have to avoid 2 touching 3 or 5. So wherever 2 is, let's say it was there, 3 and 5 couldn't be in those cells. 3 and 5 would have to be opposite it in the box. And what could they touch? Not 4, because one of them would be a 3-4 pair summing to 7. So that would be 6 or 8. These would include a 1, and that 1 could not be next to 4. So let's just assume the 1 was there. The 4 in the box would have to be there. We couldn't have 1 next to 4. I'm just constructing an idealized box. This is a 7 or 9. Nothing touching the 7 or 9 has got a problem. This is a 6 or 8, but 1 mustn't be next to 6, because that would break the rule too. So that's an 8, that's a 6. 4 mustn't be next to 3. So we're going to get this box repeated everywhere in the puzzle. But it could be reflected or rotated and it would still be obeyed, because I've just chosen where the 1 was, or where I started by choosing where the 2 was. The 1 will have to be next to the 2. We worked that out, but we could use a rotation or a reflection or anything of this box, and I'm literally going to just note it down in front of me. And this is a weird puzzle. That is going to be the box that all 9 boxes in this puzzle are going to be formed by. And that is quite a lot of information, isn't it? I mean, we're going to have to start down in this corner with these empty candy wrappers, but I don't know how. It's so strange. These have to have... Okay, let's just go back. Can I go back? No, I can't. I'm going to reconstruct that box. I'm going to reconstruct that box exactly as I've just been thinking about it now. And we were calling that the 2 and that the 1, 8, 4, 5, 6, 3. What I'd like to know next is whether these 2 X's could be in the same box. Can we have 2 pairs adding to the same number? We could. Look, 1, 8 and 2, 7 would be a pair next to each other. Or 4, 7 and 2, 9. So there's at least 2 possible ways that these could be fully blue. And that's distressing, because that's the sort of thing I didn't want to be finding. There's got to be some holistic way to think about putting this box into the puzzle 9 times. This is a strange one, isn't it? How are we going to do this? We can put this box, or rotations or reflections of it, into the puzzle 9 times. There's also going to be the problem of where boxes touch each other, and they must do somewhere. Well, that's not absolutely guaranteed. You could have boxes sitting in the puzzle like this, I suppose. I've never considered that in one of these puzzles before. No, well, this isn't going to work. I mean, it's quite an amusing structure just to think about, which I've never thought about before. It's not going to work in this puzzle because the centers of each box are 7 or 9, and you'd have 3 centers down this column. That wouldn't work. Okay, that's not what's going on. So there will be boxes touching each other, and they're going to have to avoid the sums of 7 or 5 or the even or the equal parities. Okay, there's another thing to think about. Every one of these rows with coloured cells in it, or columns with coloured cells in it, is going to have 9 cells in that column, because there will be 3 violet cells there and 3 pink cells and 3 yellow cells. They don't have to be in the areas I'm highlighting, but they must be in the column if this is in the box. So this column will have 9 digits in it. And in one of the boxes, well, in each box, those digits are going to be 2 of one and 1 of the other, depending on which column we're choosing. And therefore, once they're going to be the central spoke with 2 even digits on, and twice they're going to be the outer spokes with only 1 even digit on. So in each of these given columns, once there will be a centrally based middle column involving 2 evens. But that can sit next to one of the other boxes. I'm now sort of visualizing boxes that look like maybe like that next to a box like that. And that would be okay, because if this was the 2 evens digit, it would be touching an odd there. Oh, goodness, I don't know how you're meant to think about this at all. I'm so sorry. This is absolutely confusing everything out of me. Oh, does that mean if we could assume that both of these cages had 2 digits in, I think we could make some progress. Although I'm not absolutely sure about that. No, I don't know. I don't know how to assume. Gosh, I've got to think a bit harder about this. I know what all the boxes look like roughly. I know one cell that's in each of them. I do not know how to put this grid together so that it can possibly work. Oh, okay. Here's another thought then. So I told you that in something like column 3, there's going to be one box vertically centered on column 3 to have 2 even digits in. There's going to be 2 boxes that aren't vertically centered on it. And now I've just considered for myself the question of whether they could both be leftwards. Like you could have this setup of digits. And the answer there is no, because in column 2 of this whole grid, we would have 2 boxes with 2 even digits in, and another box with at least 1 in, and that's too many. So these couldn't work. We're going to have one to the right, one tilted to the right, one smack bang centered in column 3, and one to the left. And that's going to apply for column 3 and column 5 and column 6, that is, across the middle, and column 9. And it's going to apply to row 3, row 6 and row 9 as well. Now, how can we set that up? In this top row, if we had one there, we'd sort of have to have them like this. And then we'd have to have them like this and this. I mean, this looks like it is possible. Look, that would cover both X's. And this, and then one in the middle. There's obviously only one place for that to go. And I think with this setup, everything is a bit offset so that you could have, this is a possible setup. Obviously there must be an alternative which probably starts with this and this and this. I'm finding it very hard to articulate why these seem very likely shapes to me. But they manage the offset. They allow the whole grid to coexist. See, that is the second alternative. Now this time we'd have a problem with the X's, because one of them would have one digit in and the other would have no digits in, and they couldn't be made to add up to the same thing. So if the two things, the two shapes I've just come up with, are the only possible shapes to allow such a grid to fit together with the parity constraints, then we know which one it is. But why? Why should it be like that? Why am I ignoring? I mean, I do quite like this, I must say. It feels, it's like the Paul Dirac, the physicist's observation. If a formula or a scientific result feels beautiful, then it's probably right. That's how the universe is set up. And this does feel good. But why am I ignoring a box in the corner? If you had a box in the corner and a box here separated from it and a box here, why not? Why not do that? Then you'd kind of have to have, well, is it about leaving enough space in the middle for the middle box? Yeah, it probably is. That would have to go there. Yeah, and as soon as you've pushed a box off to the side at the bottom, if you push this middle one off to the side, you're really not leaving the room for pink and blue. You might have to have a low one and a high one like that. And I bet this shape doesn't work for some reason. Are we going to get the room to put these in? So this box 1, as I would call it, would have to be either there or there. And box 2 then is going to have to be in that row. And now box 3 couldn't fit in because it would have to go into row 5. Okay, I am seeing that that doesn't work. I'm finally going to remove this corner stuff, which is aid memoiring. And I think, I don't know if I've demonstrated enough how once you start with a box in a corner of the puzzle, like going into the far corner, you're pushing something across down below into an area that is then going to, well, hang on, maybe you could keep it tight with that, like there and there. But this isn't going to work, I don't think, because you could choose which of these two boxes goes further south than the other, but you're just never going to have the room without centering a box in the same row. Like if you put that box in, it would be centered in row 5 along with the one on its right, and that's no good. And if you put it in here, it would be centered in column 5 with the one below it. And anywhere else you push it, it's going to try and take the purple or the blue. So you can't get these tight to a corner there. We've demonstrated, I think, that you can't get them kind of loose and separated because, again, there just won't be enough room to push the other things in. We're gonna have to start with this shape, which allows everything to sit there offset from everything next to it in the way that we need to have the polarity, the parity change going on. And it's going to look like this. Let's color this all sort of yellow to start with. And then let's recolor it box by box. This one is all dark green. This one is all violet. This one is all bright green. And I think we have to have this. We've proved it's not the kind of mirrored shape or the one, because the double X box doesn't work. I think, and again, that feels beautiful. That feels like what the X's are doing there. They're giving me this chance to start. Let's leave that one yellow actually. Make this one, oh, I can't highlight the 3x3. Let's make that one red. And this one light blue. And I'm sorry if you're not satisfied with my articulation of what I'm seeing here. Literally, I can only try and explain it to you the best I can see it. And I think this is the pattern we have to have. And now what we can further do, okay, I shouldn't have colored everything. I see that now. What I should have done is drawn in the lines. I'm going to do that. Let's draw in the lines. Mark, you're a bit of a prize prune, but you know, your heart's in the right place, and it's only a minority of people who can't stand the way you explain things. Let's see how we go. Okay, here are the boxes, and now the colouring that I should be applying is the quincunx odd even colouring. Yes, it is. So we're going to do that. We're going to do that, and we're going to do it, well, I mean, we can do it everywhere. We can delete all the colours that we have. And is it a verb? Can we quincunx the whole grid? That's what I seem to be doing. Every box has to obey this quincunx rule. We saw that. That was the simplest deduction, and not that easy, but we saw it early on. Right, so we'll make all of those orange for odd, and then including these ones, we'll make all the separate colours in the diamond shapes blue for even. And then we'll be in business, won't we? This is the parity pattern of the grid. There it is. Orange is odd. Oh, I missed the line. Blue is even. And this will work. And I don't think there's any other way to put it all together. So it does work. Now we do get to focus on this box with its two X's that add up to the same number less than 10. And the trouble is, the central digit can't be a 9 now, because the number would be at least 10. So in this box, the central digit is a 7. And there's our first digit in the grid. 7 plus an even digit is going to be 7 plus 2. And now I'm looking at my aide-memoire of the box. 2 was opposite 6. 2, but 2 is next to 1. Okay, I do know the rotation because of this empty candy wrapper. This has got to be the 1-8 pair, I think. Next to 7-2, we either had 4-9 or 1-8. Yes, this is the 1-8 pair. And now I've obeyed the rule about X. That's a 4. Now 3 can't go next to 4, so it's there. 5 can't go next to 2, so that's 9, and that's 5. And there's one box done. I mean, this is a confusing idea, but it's really clever. 25 minutes in, and I've suddenly filled in 9 digits, having got none before. I mean, this is why these variant Sudokus are so fun, because you come up with these, people come up with these extraordinary ideas and patterns, and they make them work. It's awesome. Right, now how can we extrapolate from here? These other even digits in this column have to be 2, 4, and 6. Now we have to obey this kind of box, certainly in respect of its even digits. It's 7 and 9 we don't have to obey, but we do have to obey that this pair have to be opposite each other, and they have to be a 2 and a 6, because 4 would be opposite 8. So that has to be a 2-6 pair, and this is a 4-8 pair. And this digit is a 4. And 4, let's forget 7 and 9. 4 is always opposite 8, and that's a 2-6 pair. That much we know. Now we could go along here. This is a 2, 6 pair in row 4. And this pair cannot be a 2, 6 pair, but they're opposite each other. That's a 4, 8 pair. That digit is a 2 or a 6. This pair must be a 4, 8 pair. It can't be 2, 6 now. That's 2 or 6. And we're always going to get this pattern of 4 being opposite 8, 2 being opposite 6. And we're going to be able to do something in box 8. I'm calling this box 8. I mean, you probably understand my instinctive desire to number these like the normal Sudoku boxes. That's a 2. 2 is opposite 6. Yeah, look, we are going to be able to do something. So there's the even digits getting placed in pairs, but then we can use the odd one, the occasional one, not odd, that we get to do a bit more work. 2, 6, 2, 6. Why can't, oh, these are in offset rows. Maybe we can't actually do those yet. That's really weird, but it's true. Okay, what about 4 and 8? That 4 is seeing this cell. So we get some of the 4 and 8s unwound in the odd numbered columns, but not in the even numbered columns. So I can't do those, or those, or those, or those. And boxes 2, 4, 6, and 8 are being very recalcitrant here. But then what? 2 always has to be next to 1. Ah, that's good here. 2 has to be next to 1, but the 1 can't be there. So this is the 1. So we're looking at exactly the same setup as this box, apart potentially from the 7, 9 pair. So I'm filling in the 5 and the 3. Oh, the 1 always, you're right, between the 2 and the 8 as we go around the perimeter in our aid memoir box, we're always having a 1. So these boxes 1, 3, 5 and 7, 9 are all exactly the same as each other, perhaps apart from the 7, 9 pair. So I can just fill in the 1s, 5s and 3s, which is, it feels weird. It feels almost like a cheat code. Anyway, now I'm looking up this column and the only digit I haven't placed is 7. Then I'm looking at this row. Now I can do some of the 9s and 7s, including in box 2, which I find interesting. In this column, we've got a 7 needed. And in this row, we get a 9, and that becomes a 7. And now the 9s and 7s, far from being the hopeless outsiders who weren't conforming, they're actually resolving other boxes for us. We get a 7 in column 9 here. And that's a 9, and then we're getting the 7 in the central box. And I still haven't got these two, but that's probably big. Yes, I hadn't spotted this column, which needs a 7. Then we get 9, 9, and 7 there. Now, still a bit to do, but not that much. 7, 4, 8, 2, 6. And the 1 always comes between 2 and 8. Oh, I don't know, but we can rotate, reflect, and perform other transformations on these cages. Ah, but we've got this overall rule that applies here, that digits, we can't have, there's no Reese's piece here. So these, it's a singular Reese's pieces called a Reese's piece? I don't know. We don't have them. Anyway, that can't be 1, 4 or it would break the rules. So that's the 8. Of course, we're going across box here as well. We can't have a 7 total. So, oh, that's marvelous. There we can't have 1, 4. Here we can't have 3, 2. This is very, very clever. That 8 is sorting out 4 and 8. I think we're going to find in a second that I've done all the even digits in this puzzle. That's now 8, that's 4, this is 2, that's 6. There we go, they're all done. And now between the 2 and the 8 around the perimeter, we always have a 1. And it's now, for boxes 2, 4, 6 and 8, it's always in the top left corner, that 1. And we have a string of 1, 8, 3 in our idealized box. So we have a string of 183, we have a string of, oh, not always 129, because 9 and 7 are interchangeable. We always have a 365, because that's how many days there are in the year. Now that's just a coincidence, but it does happen. Now in this box I can finish off with a 9, and in this one, and in this one, and in this one, and that is the solution to Someone Ate All My Candy. And it is a remarkable puzzle. This construction has ended up with 4 of exactly the same box in positions 2, 4, 6, and 8. I'm going to put the 9 in and get the tick. There we go. It was you! How dare you snack on my half-year-old Halloween candy? Well, I would do that, because I do like a snack, despite what esoteric videos thinks. Right, I'm going to go back to colouring these cages in my original colours. Just to show you again, I mean, I know you've understood it, but I love this. It really does go to that Paul Dirac quote of, if it's beautiful, then it almost certainly is right. Because I think this is another classic form of beauty. Thank you so much, Julius, for recommending this puzzle by Pykel, which was from the CTC Discord server, I'm delighted to say. Because it's a work of genius. Look, the both greens, pink, red and dark blue, those boxes are all exactly the same. They're clones. And the violet, orange, yellow and light blue are all clones of each other. And yet they fit together in this wonderful deconstruction grid. And nowhere in the puzzle, I am led to believe, is there a pair that adds up to 5 or a pair that adds up to 7. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. If you have a much neater way in 3 sentences of explaining what I was trying to get through near the beginning with how this shape had to be the right shape, the one we ended up with, please feel free to append it. And feel free to criticize me for my explanation. I don't mind at all. Because it wasn't wonderfully clear, concise and succinct. But like I was saying at the beginning, we're just trying to get through these puzzles and show you their beauty. Sometimes our own human incompetence is all that is stopping us explaining it perfectly, but I'm trying. Thank you for watching. Well done to Pykel for creating this marvellous thing. And really hope to see you again soon. I will say a word to Joey Thamir. Happy birthday, Joey. We couldn't do your puzzles on the channel, but Joey sent a set of 10 connected puzzles, but one of them needed a hint that effectively turned into a rule, and some of them weren't very clear, and it wasn't really possible, Joey, sorry. They were a very interesting set of puzzles, but I don't think we could feature them on the channel. This one though, what a joy, what a joy. Thank you for watching, hope to see you again soon on the channel, and bye for now.